The encounter. The amber sunset cast long shadows through the bioluminescent trees of Whisper Ridge Colony, turning the sky into a canvas of burnt orange and deep purple. Lieutenant Morgan Vale trudged along the familiar path after another exhausting 14-hour shift at the colony's defense outpost. Her sidearm hung heavily at her hip, a constant companion in this wild frontier world that humanity had only partially tamed. Another day keeping the locals safe from imaginary threats, she muttered to herself, kicking at the phosphorescent moss that lined the trail. The moss flickered in protest, sending waves of blue light rippling outward. Sorry, she told it unnecessarily. The colony had been established 20 years ago, but Morgan had only been stationed here for 3, a punishment assignment after she'd spoken out against corporate exploitation on Titan. The air carried the familiar metallic tang of Whisper Ridge's unique atmosphere, breathable but always slightly off, like food that had been sitting out too long. Something felt different tonight. The native fauna was behaving strangely. The flutter moths that typically swarmed the bioluminescent trees had gone silent. The 6-legged squirrel analogues called chitters were nowhere to be seen. Even the constant background hum of the ridge insects had dimmed to nearly nothing. Great, Morgan said aloud to nobody. Just what I need, some environmental anomaly that'll probably have me filling out forms until retirement. A peculiar sound carried on the wind, a low, pained moan unlike anything native to Whisper Ridge. Morgan's hand instinctively moved to her weapon. 7 years in colonial defense had taught her that unfamiliar sounds usually meant trouble. The sound repeated, closer this time. It wasn't mechanical, it was organic. A creature in pain. Morgan activated her wrist scanner, but the readings were confusing. Energy signature inconsistent with known Whisper Ridge fauna, the device announced in its artificially pleasant voice. No kidding, Morgan responded, adjusting the scanner's sensitivity. Any match to known galactic species? Insufficient data for conclusive identification. Morgan rolled her eyes. 12,000 credits for military-grade tech, and it's as useful as a chocolate teapot. In the shadows between the trees, something shifted. Something large was moving parallel to the path. Morgan drew her weapon, activating the targeting laser. Colonial defense. Identify yourself, or I will fire. The creature emerged slowly into a patch of light created by a cluster of glowing fungi. Morgan's finger froze on the trigger. It resembled an earth lion in basic form, 4-legged, maned, feline, but there the similarities ended. Its skin was a patchwork of scales and fur with an iridescent quality that seemed to shift colors with each labored breath. The mane was more like tendrils, writhing slowly with a life of their own. Most striking were its eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle, glowing amber with vertical pupils. Holy Mother of. Morgan breathed, keeping her weapon trained on the creature. The alien lion regarded her with those 3 unnerving eyes. It was clearly injured, its breathing labored, one front limb barely touching the ground, and dark blue fluid matted the scales on its side. Around its neck was what appeared to be a control collar, sophisticated tech that Morgan recognized as Arcturon in design. The creature made no aggressive move. Instead, it released that same mournful sound and took a halting step toward her. Stay back, Morgan warned, though she doubted the creature understood. I don't want to hurt you, but I will. The alien lion stopped, swaying slightly. Then it did something extraordinary. It lowered its great head in what could only be described as a bow, its 3 eyes never leaving hers. The gesture was unmistakably one of submission, of pleading. Morgan felt her resolve waver. Whatever this thing was, it was clearly intelligent. And it was dying. An unlikely alliance. Morgan's training screamed at her to call for backup, to follow protocol. But something in those 3 amber eyes stopped her. The creature's breathing was becoming more shallow, the dark blue blood pooling beneath it. Damn it, she whispered, holstering her weapon. This is either the stupidest thing I've ever done, or... She approached slowly, hands visible. The alien lion watched her but didn't move, except for the slight tremor of exhaustion that ran through its massive frame. "Easy there, big guy," Morgan said softly. "Let me take a look at that collar." Up close, the Arcturon technology was even more sophisticated than she'd initially thought. Neural interface ports, biometric locks, and what looked suspiciously like pain amplifiers. This wasn't just a control device, it was a torture instrument. The creature's eyes followed her movements as she examined the collar. When her fingers traced along its surface, searching for a release mechanism, the alien made a soft rumbling sound that might have been gratitude. "Someone's been keeping you as a pet, haven't they?" Morgan muttered. "Or worse." Her wrist scanner chimed. The energy readings were spiking, not from the creature, but from something approaching through the forest. Multiple heat signatures, moving with purpose. "Company," she breathed. The alien lion's head snapped up, its tendril mane writhing with obvious distress. It tried to stand but collapsed with a whimper of pain. Through the trees came the whine of anti-grav sleds. Morgan counted at least 6 figures in environmental suits, definitely not colony personnel. Pirates, most likely, or smugglers. The kind of people who might keep an exotic alien as a prize. "Found you, haven't we, precious?" called out a voice with a thick Centauri accent. "Let us write to the local authorities too." How convenient. Morgan's hand went to her sidearm, but she was outnumbered and outgunned. The alien lion looked up at her with what she could swear was apologetic resignation. That's when she made a decision that would change everything. "Computer," she said quietly into her wrist communicator, "Emergency Protocol 77 Alpha. Authorization Vale Delta 9. The scanner on her wrist hummed to life, projecting a small holographic interface. With quick, practiced movements, she began overriding the collar's security protocols. Her years working with Arcturon tech during the Titan incident were finally paying off. "What are you doing?" hissed one of the approaching figures. "Giving this creature a choice," Morgan replied, not looking up from her work. The collar clicked once, twice, then fell away with a soft thud. The transformation was immediate. The alien lion's eyes blazed brighter, its breathing deepened, and most remarkably, it began to speak, not with words, but directly into Morgan's mind. "You freed me," the voice was warm, ancient, and filled with wonder. "After so long in chains, a human shows mercy." Morgan staggered at the mental contact. "You're telepathic." "Among other things. My name is Kael'thara. I was, a guardian of the Vale Consortium. Before they captured me. Before they broke my spirit and used me as their hunting beast. The smugglers were closing in, weapons drawn. But Kael'thara was rising, power flowing back into his magnificent form. Stand behind me, brave one. It is time these slavers learned what they have truly awakened." Morgan stepped back as Kael'thara's form began to shimmer with an otherworldly energy. Whatever was about to happen, she had a feeling the balance of power was about to shift dramatically. Dangerous revelations. The first smuggler never had a chance. Kael'thara moved with fluid grace despite his injuries, and when he struck, reality itself seemed to bend around his claws. The attacker's energy weapon simply ceased to exist, its molecular structure unraveling at the Guardian's touch. "Impossible," shouted another smuggler, firing wildly. The plasma bolts passed harmlessly through Kael'thara's form as if he were made of mist. "I am a reality weaver," Kael'thara's voice echoed in Morgan's mind as he dispatched 2 more attackers with terrifying efficiency. "We maintain the barriers between dimensions. These fools thought they could use my power for their petty crimes." Within moments, the remaining smugglers were fleeing into the forest, leaving their fallen comrades behind. Kael'thara stood among the wreckage, his form gradually solidifying back into its physical state. But the effort had cost him, he swayed, fresh blue blood seeping from his wounds. "You need medical attention," Morgan said, moving to support the massive alien. "Human medicine cannot heal what ails me," Kael'thara replied, though he accepted her help gratefully. The collar did more than control my body, it poisoned my connection to the veil. I am dying. Morgan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. There has to be something we can do. Perhaps. But it would require trust beyond anything your species has ever shown. The Vale Consortium has laws, strict laws about sharing our knowledge with younger races. But you. His 3 eyes fixed on her with intense scrutiny. You freed me when you had no reason to do so. You chose compassion over protocol. What are you saying? I am saying that perhaps it is time for a new kind of alliance. But first, you must understand what you are truly dealing with. Kael'Thas's form shimmered again, and suddenly Morgan was no longer standing in the forest of Whisper Ridge. She was floating in space, looking down at a vast network of energy barriers that stretched between star systems like cosmic spider webs. This is the Veil, Kael'Thas explained. For millennia, my people have maintained the barriers that keep the chaos dimensions from bleeding into your reality. Every time your scientists wonder why faster-than-light travel works, why psychic phenomena exist, why consciousness itself can affect quantum states, it is because we hold the fundamental forces in balance. The vision shifted, showing her glimpses of other worlds, other species. Humans were conspicuously absent from most of the galactic community. Your people have been quarantined, in a sense. Not out of malice, but out of caution. Humans spread so quickly, adapt so rapidly, show such potential for both creation and destruction. The consortium feared what might happen if humanity gained access to reality-weaving technology too soon. Morgan found herself back in the forest, her head spinning. But you're telling me this now. Because I am dying, and because you have shown me something I did not expect to find in a human, wisdom tempered with mercy. The poison in my system is spreading. Without intervention, I will die within days. But if I die, the section of the veil I was responsible for maintaining will collapse. What would that mean? Kael'Thas's mental voice grew grim. Chaos entities would pour through the breach. Your entire sector would be consumed in dimensional storms. Whisper Ridge, the surrounding systems, perhaps even Earth itself, all would be lost to the void. Morgan stared at him in shock. How do we stop it? There is a way. But it would require you to accept a guardian's bond, to become linked with me on a fundamental level. You would gain access to our abilities, our knowledge. But you would also become responsible for maintaining the veil in my stead when I am gone. It is a burden that would change you forever. The weight of the decision pressed down on Morgan like the gravity of a collapsed star. The fate of entire worlds hung in the balance, and somehow it had fallen to her, a disgraced officer on a backwater colony, to decide humanity's future relationship with the galaxy. In the distance, she could hear the sound of colony security vehicles approaching. Soon, there would be questions she couldn't answer, reports that wouldn't make sense, and bureaucrats who would never understand the choice she was being offered. Kael'Thas watched her with those ancient amber eyes, patient despite his pain. I know it is much to ask. But I have seen into your heart, Morgan Vale. You carry the spark that could either doom your species or elevate it beyond anything the consortium ever imagined. The ultimate test. The sound of approaching vehicles grew louder, but Morgan's focus remained on the dying guardian before her. She could feel the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on her shoulders, heavier than any burden she'd ever carried. If I do this, she said quietly, what happens to the people I care about? My life here? Your life would never be the same, Kael'Thas admitted. But consider the alternative. Without the veil, there would be no life to preserve. Morgan closed her eyes, thinking of her fellow colonists, her friends back on Earth, the billions of people who had no idea how close they were to annihilation. When she opened them again, her resolve was clear. Tell me what I need to do. Place your hand on my chest, above my heart core. The bonding process will be intense. You will experience my memories, my knowledge, my connection to the veil. Some humans who have attempted similar bonds with lesser beings have not survived. Have any succeeded? You would be the first. Morgan almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Of course she would be the first. Her whole life had been a series of firsts, first in her family to join the military, first to speak out against corporate corruption, first to be exiled to a frontier world. The colony security vehicles were close now, their lights visible through the trees. Whatever she was going to do, it had to be now. I trust you, she said, placing her palm against Kael'thas's chest. The world exploded into sensation. Morgan experienced 10,000 years of memory in an instant, the formation of the Vale Consortium, the first contact with chaos entities, the delicate balance of forces that kept reality stable. She felt the weight of responsibility that each guardian carried, the constant vigilance required to maintain the barriers between dimensions. But more than that, she felt Kael'thas's hope. His belief that humanity, despite its flaws, might be the key to something greater. That their unpredictability, their capacity for rapid adaptation, might be exactly what the galaxy needed. Power flowed through her, alien and vast. She could feel the Vale itself, a vast network of energy that connected every star, every planet, every conscious being in the galaxy. And she could feel the weak points, the places where Kael'thas's failing strength left gaps in the protective barriers. Now you understand, Kael'thas's voice was growing weaker. The bond is complete. You are no longer merely human, you are a guardian of the Vale. Morgan opened her eyes to find herself surrounded by a shimmering aura of energy. The forest around her seemed more alive, more connected. She could sense the life force of every creature within miles, feel the subtle currents of reality itself. The security vehicles had arrived, their occupants taking cover behind their vehicles as they witnessed the impossible scene before them. Lieutenant Vale, called out Captain Rodriguez, the colony's security chief. Step away from the creature. Morgan looked down at Kael'thas, who was fading rapidly now that the bond was complete. Go to them, he urged. Tell them what they need to know. But be careful, not all will accept the truth. What about you? My part in this story is ending. But yours is just beginning. The Vale Consortium will send others to test you, to see if humanity is truly ready for what comes next. Show them the same mercy you showed me. Morgan felt tears she didn't know she was crying. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You freed a being you didn't know, risked everything to show compassion to a stranger. That strength will serve you well in the trials ahead. Kael'thas's form was becoming translucent, his energy dispersing into the fabric of reality itself. But his voice remained strong in her mind. Remember, Morgan Vale, humanity's greatest power was never its weapons or its technology. It was its capacity to choose hope over fear, mercy over vengeance. Carry that truth with you, and you will not fail. With that, Kael'thas faded completely, leaving only a faint shimmer in the air where he had been. Morgan stood alone in the forest, forever changed, carrying the weight of the galaxy's future in her heart. Captain Rodriguez approached cautiously. Lieutenant, we need to talk. Morgan nodded, still feeling the vast network of the Vale pulsing through her consciousness. Yes, she said. We do. But first, I need to contact Earth. Humanity is about to become part of something much bigger than we ever imagined. A new dawn. 3 months later, Morgan stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Vale station, watching as humanity's first diplomatic ship prepared to dock. The past few months had been a whirlwind of revelations, negotiations, and preparations that would have seemed impossible before her encounter with Kael'thas. The Vale Consortium had indeed sent representatives, not the hostile force she had feared, but curious, cautious beings who wanted to understand how a human had successfully bonded with a guardian. Her demonstration of reality-weaving abilities had been met with shocked silence, followed by intense deliberation. They're beautiful, came a familiar voice in her mind. Morgan smiled, touching the pendant at her throat, a crystal that contained the last essence of Kael'thas's consciousness. That they are, she murmured, watching as the diplomatic vessel extended its docking array. Through her enhanced senses, she could feel the mixed emotions of its occupants, hope, fear, wonder, and determination. Captain Rodriguez joined her at the viewing port. "Hard to believe it all started with you finding an injured animal in the woods." "He was never just an animal," Morgan replied. "He was a person, a guardian, a bridge between worlds. I just chose to see him as he truly was." The docking procedures completed, and soon the station was filled with beings from across the galaxy. The Vale Consortium's council was diverse beyond imagination: crystalline entities that sang in harmonics, gaseous beings that communicated through chemical changes, and others that existed in dimensions Morgan was still learning to perceive. But it was the human delegation that surprised her most. Politicians and scientists, yes, but also artists, teachers, and philosophers. Humanity hadn't just sent their leaders, they'd sent their dreamers. The formal negotiations took place in the station's central chamber, a space that had been specifically designed to accommodate beings of vastly different physiologies. Morgan served as translator and mediator, her unique position as both human and guardian allowing her to bridge gaps that had seemed insurmountable. "The question before us," spoke Zara Thyss, the consortium's chief diplomat, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, "is whether humanity is ready to accept the responsibilities that come with Vale knowledge." Ambassador Chen, Earth's chief representative, leaned forward. "And the question for us is whether we can trust a galactic community that has kept us isolated for centuries." Morgan felt the familiar tension that had marked every session. Progress was being made, but slowly, with each side testing the other's intentions. "Show them," Kael'Thara's voice whispered in her mind. "Show them what they both really want to see." Morgan stood, her guardian abilities manifesting as a soft glow around her. With gentle precision, she began to weave reality itself, creating a vision that filled the chamber. It was Earth as seen from space, but more than that, it was Earth as connected to the galactic community. Streams of energy flowed between worlds, carrying not just information but culture, art, music, and most importantly, understanding. She showed them humans working alongside alien scientists to strengthen the Vale, human artists collaborating with beings from distant stars to create beauty beyond imagination. But she also showed them the dangers, the chaos entities that lurked beyond the barriers, the delicate balance that required constant vigilance, the price of failure. "This is what we could be," Morgan said, her voice carrying across dimensions as well as air. "Not conquerors or subjects, but partners. Guardians standing together against the dark." The vision faded, leaving the chamber in profound silence. Then, slowly, Zara Thyss began to sing, a complex harmony that other consortium members joined. Morgan realized it was their equivalent of applause. Ambassador Chen was wiping tears from his eyes. "That was extraordinary." "That was hope," Morgan replied. "The same hope that led me to free a dying alien in a forest. The hope that says we can choose to be better than our fears." The negotiations continued for days, but the tone had changed. Both sides were now working toward the same goal, not bargaining against each other. By the end of the week, humanity had been granted provisional membership in the Vale Consortium, with a path to full partnership once they had proven their commitment to galactic stability. As the various delegations prepared to depart, Morgan found herself alone on the observation deck once more. The stars looked different now, not distant lights in the void, but homes to friends she had yet to meet. "You did well," Kael'Thara's voice was growing fainter, his essence slowly dispersing into the cosmic web he had spent his life protecting. "We did well," Morgan corrected. "None of this would have been possible without your sacrifice." "Not sacrifice, investment. In you, in your species, in the future we can build together. The bonds you've forged here will outlast both of us." Morgan felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. The weight of responsibility was still there, would always be there, but it no longer felt like a burden. It felt like a calling. In the distance, she could see the first human ships preparing to journey to distant worlds, carrying not weapons or conquest, but curiosity and hope. And throughout the galaxy, the Vale pulsed strong and steady, protected by beings who had chosen cooperation over conflict. The dying alien who had begged for help in a forest on Whisper Ridge had received more than mercy, he had received the chance to plant the seeds of a new future. And humanity, in choosing compassion over fear, had earned their place among the stars. As Morgan watched the ships disappear into hyperspace, carrying humanity's dream to the far reaches of the galaxy, she whispered a promise to her fading friend, "We won't let you down." "I know you won't," came the reply, soft as starlight. "After all, you're only human." And for the first time in her life, Morgan understood that being human, with all their flaws and potential, their capacity for both destruction and transcendence, was exactly what the galaxy needed. The end.